May 8th, Wednesday. Welcome to the Pump Fake, everybody. I'm Jared Bailey. That is my friend JP Acosta from SB Nation. JP, always good to produce content with you. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. It's Wednesday. You know what that means? It's time to come in on the Pump Fake and talk some ball.
Absolutely. So if you're watching this video, wherever you're watching it, yes, we are talking about my top 36 NFL quarterbacks. I did the write-up last week for this for USA Today. Another quarterback list came out today on CBS Sports that has me floored, and I figured why not talk about mine. I'm also, dude, you ever have just one of those days? Like, I woke up this morning and I was immediately, and it was like, I'm gonna be exhausted all day. It's not gonna go away. I don't know what the hell it is. I got more sleep than I usually do. Maybe that's the issue. I've been feeling it all day. I don't know what the issue is.
Yeah, it's feeling like one of those months where it's like something needs to happen to kind of get the energy back up, but we're starting to get into the dog days of football content.
It's not even like content wise, yeah, maybe like if there was more like exciting stuff happening, maybe I'd be a little bit more jolty. But yeah, it is beginning of May in that dead season, like you said. But yeah, I went to 7-Eleven this morning to get a Starbucks double shot because I knew I was going to be tired. That didn't do much. I had another cup of coffee on top of that. I'm dragging, man. I don't know what the issue is, but I'm gonna bring it. I'm gonna crack my neck. I'm gonna get ready, and we're gonna talk about quarterbacks. So we're gonna go from 36 to 1. We're not gonna spend a ton of time on each one, but we're gonna touch on each one just so you know where each guy stands. All right, and then you can yell at me for certain guys being over, under, wherever you believe they should be.
Let's do it.
All right. So number 36, Drew Lock, New York Giants. I lead off the Drew Lock slide saying that Daniel Jones is not on the list. I'm tired of hearing about Daniel Jones. We're year 6 of this. I don't think he's good.
Hey, man, he getting paid to be good. So
he's getting paid to be good. Hey, a lot of dudes have been paid to be good.
But I think I can rock with Drew Lock being on there. I mean, you haven't seen enough from Daniel Jones to actually to warrant a spot on this list. And Drew Lock has at least the talent to make things interesting. I'm very curious how this season shakes out at the quarterback spot for the Giants, because you're kind of looking at, I think they're looking at 25, the 25 draft as their year to go get a guy, because you can get out of that Daniel Jones contract. But it is one of the all-time blunders in terms of quarterback contracts.
Absolutely. Yeah. I saw somebody in New York media say that Drew Lock is going to have be given like a legitimate chance to win the job. I hope he does. I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing him week 1. 35, Aiden O'Connell. Maybe he's a little bit low. We'll see what he does this season if he's the starter. I know that they signed Gardner Minshew, but Aiden O'Connell, 35. Why not?
Good for him. That's really good for him.
Yep. Okay.
Congratulations on making the list.
We've talked about this next guy before in terms of our opinions on him. I think we have differing opinions. He's a rookie. I got Jaden Daniels at 34.
So I understand, and I do have my trepidations about his style of play. I think there needs to be a little bit more improvement in his timing over the middle of the field. But in Cliff Kingsbury's offense, you're not going to be asked to do a lot of that. You're going to have to do a lot of RPOs, a lot of vertical passes on the outside of the numbers, and use your legs. So I think Jaden Daniels is set up to succeed kind of in Washington, but I have no faith in Cliff Kingsbury building a coherent offense around him.
Fair enough. Next up on 33 is the man he just replaced, Sam Howell in Seattle.
Remember those like 4 weeks where everybody was like, Sam Howell is the truth?
And Sam Howell led the NFL in passing yards for like a month.
And then everybody realized that that's because they threw the ball 70 times a game because they were losing in every single game.
Yeah.
So he takes a lot of sacks, and that's a problem. That sure. I think he writes checks that his body cannot cash.
That fair enough. Next guy, I think he's going to climb up the list, but right now, I think it's probably fair. Maybe deserves to be a little bit higher, but I do think that he will climb up the list this season with the added help that he's now has around him. It is Bryce Young, 32.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I still think Bryce Young can be a serviceable quarterback at the
I
NFL.
think so too.
Last year was a lot went wrong. But
Mhm.
what I'm seeing from Carolina, who had a really sneaky good offseason, I think what they're going to do is they're going to try and pound the rock a lot, and they're going to let Bryce Young kind of be the point guard. They're going to let him point and shoot. It's allowing me a lot of timing passes. I think Dave Canales said like 2.7. He wants Bryce Young to get the ball out in 2.7 seconds or less. Baker Mayfield was around that time in Tampa. So you can see the game plan for them going into this season. They want to be mean up front and then allow Bryce Young to kind of use his feel for the game and his playmaking ability to work in the short areas of the field, which is why you go out and get Deontay Johnson.
Yeah, they draft Xavier Legette as well. So now you can have Adam Thielen be, 2A or 2B or number 3 altogether. Like the weapons that are now around him are much better than they were a season ago. They added Robert Hunt up front on the offensive line, so they're getting better. It's not
I
going to
like
be a
that it's called Xavier Legette Boomhauer. That is,
yeah. Did you like that?
it's still the funniest thing. I cannot hear him and not think of Boomhauer.
It's so funny, man. Oh, it's great. I love it. It's every time he talks, like an angel gets its wings. Like he's just a vibe.
I need he and Keon Coleman to get like side shows during the year where we just get to see what they're doing.
I think that's a good idea. Like that, what is it, receiver show on Netflix? Just make it Xavier Legette and Keon Coleman for a year.
Yeah, I think Buffalo had one where Marshawn Lynch was in Applebee's. Like he was up in Applebee's. Give me Keon Coleman walking around in Macy's.
That would be tremendous. That would be good stuff. 31. I got Deshaun Watson in at 31. He hasn't been good in 4 years. Don't think that we're going to see much more of him.
Oh boy, if it were not for Daniel Jones being bad, we might consider this the worst contract given out to a quarterback ever. I think this is.
I don't know. I think it still might be because it's like a lot more money.
It's going to be a massive, massive, massive year for Watson, especially because of how Cleveland looked early without him.
Mm.
I think he really didn't look comfortable until like the second game against the Ravens where he got hurt. And from then it's like he's just been snake bitten the entire year. But it looks like two different offenses when Deshaun is in the game versus when he's not in the game.
Right.
I think Watson needs to become more comfortable with what Kevin Stefanski is running because Kevin Stefanski is a really, really good play caller.
Right.
And you're hoping that with a defense that can retain that level of play, you at least get some baseline level of QB play. But if not, then I don't see any way of getting out of that contract.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like it's all guaranteed. There doesn't seem to be any sort of way that the Browns can get out of it. So they're going to have to hope that he gets good, man, because it hasn't been great so far. Number 30, another rookie, another one that I'm just like, maybe, but I'm not like super duper high on it. JJ McCarthy at 30.
So I would probably have JJ a little lower. Like, I guess I put him where Bryce Young is.
Okay.
Or I put him where Deshaun is and move Bryce to 30.
I'm fine with that. If you want to switch JJ and Bryce Young, that's cool with me.
It's really small potatoes, but I think JJ McCarthy can be a serviceable Shanahan system quarterback in a year. I think he needs this year to kind of figure out like how to like work an NFL passing concept in straight drop back scenarios. But Minnesota seems like the best option for a rookie quarterback to go to. So
yeah,
I can see it happening.
29, Jacoby Brissett. I compared Jacoby Brissett to like if you're watching like a baseball game in like June or July and you see a relief pitcher come in that you haven't heard like his name in a while, and you're like, oh, he's still here. That's cool. Good for him. That's Jacoby Brissett.
Real Jeff Samardzija type.
Yeah.
Jacoby Brissett is the Jeff Samardzija of the NFL. He is the quintessential like backup quarterback. I think he does so many things well and serviceable where you can be like, okay, we can play this guy if we want to let a rookie sit, or if our starter gets hurt and we don't really lose a huge beat.
Right.
So I'm always a fan of Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 28. They're putting a ton around him this offseason, and they're going to find out real quick if he's good or not. Will Levis, 28.
Last year I said Will Levis plays football like Doom, the video game. It's fun sometimes. It's fun. It don't look great, but it's gonna be fun. So I wonder what it looks like with all the talent around him, because I wonder how he fits in Brian Callahan. Not Brian. It is Brian Callahan. Brian Callahan's offense. That if we're operating under the assumption that it'll be similar to what Joe Burrow ran in Cincinnati, there's a lot of shotgun, a lot of straight drop back. I don't think Will Levis is that quarterback. I think he is heavy play action. If Brian Callahan brings the Jake Browning offense to Tennessee, I think Levis can be fine. But if it's the Joe Burrow offense, I have a lot of questions.
Number 27, Gardner Minshew going to Las Vegas. I don't know. Is he starting? Is Aiden O'Connell starting? Who do you think that they go with?
I think they should go with somebody from the stands if Gardner Minshew is playing. I think Gardner Minshew should be way down on this list.
Okay.
I don't think Gardner Minshew is that good. I think he is a pop gun quarterback. I think people got fooled by the mustache that he's a real reckless gunslinger, throw the ball downfield. That's not his game. He's risk averse. He will not throw the ball very far downfield because he doesn't have the arm strength to do it. And sometimes he again writes checks that his body cannot cash. I wonder how this unravels in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't think the Raiders went into this offseason with a good plan at quarterback.
I feel like they thought that Penix was going to be there for them at 13.
Yeah, I think they thought Penix was going to be there, and then Atlanta decided to shock the world. So I really think that 2025 is going to be their quarterback year.
Gardner Minshew is like if Yosemite Sam played quarterback. I think that's pretty good.
It's like if you put Heath Slater back there.
Heath Slater. What? I know the name.
3-man band.
Yeah, WWE. Yeah.
Yeah. You put Heath Slater back there.
Yeah, that's good.
You put freaking James Ellsworth back there in shotgun doing RPOs.
Goodness gracious. 26. I have Joe Flacco at 26. I think that he goes to a good spot to be, a reliable backup should anything happen to Anthony Richardson. If Shane Steichen can get what he got out of Minshew last year, Flacco's as good as you can get as like a dependable vet backup.
I love the Joe Flacco renaissance that happened last year.
Yeah.
But Joe Flacco is going to be 40. I think we need to slow down here a little bit. With Joe Flacco can win you games, I would like to just kind of temper our expectations a little bit for a 40-year-old man whose arm strength is still kind of waning towards the end. And
I'm not expecting Joe Flacco to be anything crazy. But at this point, even at this point in his career, if you need a guy to play 2 games, and Flacco can do 2 or 3 games right now.
I think Jacoby Brissett might be the better backup.
Okay.
Just because he can do a lot more with his legs. He's a bit more creative. Joe Flacco's a statue, which he was never athletic in his prime, but now he is. They pulled him off the couch. So I really wonder how much he's going to have left if he does play. I don't think he does play this season, but
yeah, let's hope not. I mean, that means that Anthony Richardson didn't miss any time, and that's all that we could all want. I was going to say something else about Flacco. Oh, yeah, I mean, he was able to play a little bit more loose last year in Cleveland because he knew, okay, well, I've got this great defense on the other side of me. Like against the Jets, I think he threw 3 picks against the Jets, but on the other side, he's like, well, Tim Boyle's playing over there, so if I throw a pick, they'll probably just get it right back. I'm not worried. Yeah, it was a crazy, I think it was a Thursday night game where they both just went back and forth. That was a fun game. 25, top 25. This is where I put Drake May. I think he's going to climb up the list. I like Drake May. The way that they've built their offense, especially in the draft, getting him Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. I think they have a clear thought process in mind where they have a quarterback who can chuck it, a little bit raw, but the guys who are more raw but still have clear and evident talent, those seem to be the guys that pan out most rather than guys who are quote-unquote polished products coming out of college. I think Drake May is going to be pretty good.
I would actually have Drake May a little higher.
That's fine with me.
I think people got on him for his footwork and processing, which I thought his process was good coming out of North Carolina. I just think the results weren't as good because you're running a godforsaken air raid offense by two godforsaken offensive coordinators, a terrible offensive line, and the only two receivers in 2023 were Tez Walker, who came back midseason, and Bryson Nesbitt, who was a tight end. I think Drake May is going to be a very good pro. I think we kind of overthought it a little bit, and I actually think Alex Van Pelt and the offense they're going to build around him is going to be really good for him. If it's anything that looks like what Kevin Stefanski ran in Cleveland.
Right. Got Derek Carr at 24. Look, man, what I wrote was that in my comparison piece, I said that he is a 2001 Chevy Cavalier. Like everybody in Midwestern America knows somebody who still has that car, and are like, dude, just get a new car, upgrade. But they like think it'll automatically, like magically turn into like a Mercedes. It's constantly in the shop. It doesn't work anymore. It used to be reliable enough, but now it's just outdated. That's Derek Carr.
Derek Carr plays football like he has 6 downs instead of 4.
Yeah.
I think he should be lower on this list just because I want someone who plays with a little more oomph to his game. He plays scared. And I think that caution holds him back a lot and is so drastically different from who he was early in his career. But you cannot be risk averse and also unwilling to create, you know. Yeah. So I would have him I have him lower on this list.
Yeah, like if you look at his raw numbers, like you'd say, oh, Derek Carr's all right. He only threw 8 interceptions, had 25 touchdowns, but there was no like risk taking. Like there wasn't any like trying to make anything happen. It was just very as safe as he could be with, you know, trying to avoid anything bad.
Derek Carr going to throw the hell out of checkdowns.
Yeah.
He is going to throw the hell out of his checkdowns.
Number 23. This is where I put Russell Wilson, number 23. We'll see. This Arthur Smith offense they're going to run the ball. They've got George Pickens, who I think they're going to let Russ, you know, chuck it to a few times a game. Roman Wilson running the intermediate crossers from the slot. We'll see who the other boundary receiver ends up being. I think it can be fine. I don't think it's going to be great, but I think that he still has one stat that I found, according to Sports Info Solutions. Russell Wilson, 3rd in the NFL last year in passing yards off passes that were 25 or more yards downfield. So he still got something. Still got something in that arm of his.
I think 2023 Russ was better than 2022 Russ, but I don't also think 2023 Russ was good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I'm at with Russ. He improved marginally, especially in his ability to show what he still had in his arm, but you have to have a certain offense around him at this point in his career, which is create a deep pocket for him because he is not the athlete that he used to be.
Thinks he is, though.
He thinks he is. He absolutely thinks he is. And let him throw the ball downfield off of heavy play action, get in heavier personnel and attack downfield. I don't think you want him in a lot of gun. He has to throw a quick game. That's not going to be his style of play. And you wonder how sustainable it is with a quarterback like Russ, who thinks that he can still do the things that he could do, not even 10 years ago, 5 years ago.
Sure.
But it's going to be interesting to see what Arthur Smith gets out of him because I think Arthur Smith represents Russ's best chance of surviving in a split safety world that we're seeing defensively. Because if you want to get teams out of split safety, you either beat them over the head with short passes and be super efficient there or run the ball at their face. And Russ is not going to throw a quick game. So you're going to run the ball, use a lot of heavy play action, and just let him throw the deep over routes and post routes.
And I think they are going to do that. You know, we know that Arthur Smith likes to run the ball. The Falcons were 2nd in the NFL last year and rush rate at 44%. Steelers were 3rd at 43%. So I don't think that aspect's going to change too much. We'll see. 22, I have Justin Fields, the other Steelers quarterback, right there in front of him.
I want to believe.
I do too. I really want to.
I want to, but it just, for every one step forward, he's taking 3 steps back. It's like near the second half of last year, you kind of saw it a little bit. You saw the passes sometimes were on time, It was accurate. You see the
Especially
mechanics.
if you go back and watch, I think it was the game against the Commanders where they just beat the hell out of them.
Yeah, like it you see it, but the process is so bad.
Mhm.
He's still holding on to the ball for a really long time. He's not trusting what he sees in his progressions. And whether you want to chalk that up to Luke Getsy being bad or Justin Fields, be my guest. But he's been doing that for 3 years now. And
Yeah.
at this point, it's the athleticism that keeps him as highly valued as is, which is fair because you can do a lot. You can get away with a lot if you're a good athlete.
Yeah.
But I wonder if this is going to be how do I say this? I wonder if Russ is bad enough to let Justin Fields play this year.
I wonder about that too. If I had to bet, Russ is going to start the season as the starter, and at some point in the middle of the year, like, because I don't think that Russ is going to turn this offense into, a top 10 unit. So if they're hovering around, I mean, even if they are like the 19th best offense in football, that's still much better than it was a year ago. But I think they're still going to say to themselves, look, we got this, 25, 26-year-old athletic monster that he's on the sideline. We might have him in for a few plays a game, but let's see what he can do. I think it just kind of makes sense. Even if their record is fine, like if the offense isn't blowing you away, see what he can do. Just makes sense to me in that regard. 21, Geno Smith. I think we're starting to see, like, the Seahawks are in a weird spot. Like, they're not great. They're not horrible. They're in that purgatory where, like, you might be good enough to be a wild card team, but you're not good enough to really go far. And I don't know. I think with Mike McDonald, they're trying to maybe look more toward the future and start a new, somewhat era. And I don't know where that leaves Geno Smith, but he's not the long-term answer in Seattle.
I actually think Geno Smith should be a little higher. I
Oh,
think
yeah?
a lot of what happened in Seattle this past year was very injury. A lot of injuries to Geno himself, to Charles Cross and Abraham Lucas. Everybody was hurt. And I think that took an effect on the offense as a whole. But I still think Geno Smith operates that offense really well. And I really want to see Ryan Grubb operate with Geno Smith. I think he is still he has one of the prettiest deep balls.
Oh, yeah, that's factual. Yeah.
So allowing him to do that, I think he is really good I think he's really good in the intermediate game. So I would have him a little higher. I think he is, if we're using the Kirk scale, I think he is among the super Kirks.
Okay. That's fine. 20, this is where I put Caleb. I think he'll climb up the list, minimum a few spots this year. I think the Bears are going to be a sneaky, could be a wild card team. It should everything go well. I like what the Bears have put together.
I hate to say that everybody should be a little higher, but I think Caleb should be a little bit, just because he has so much creation ability. He has an unnatural feel for the game, like something you don't see from a lot of 21-year-olds. You don't see that very often with his.
And I think he will be higher, at this time next year, without a doubt in my mind.
Yeah, I really want to see how Shane Waldron operates his play action based offense with Williams, who is so good throwing outside the pocket and can use his arm to create a lot of different angles. And I think that offense is going to be really fun. I think it might take a while to get clicking, but it's going to be really fun.
Yeah, I mean, when you have Keenan Allen as the power slot guy, and then you add Odunze with DJ Moore, they signed DeAndre Swift. I think that they're putting the pieces together, and defensively, they got guys at each level that I like. Montez Sweat's good, Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards in the middle. They signed Jalen Johnson long term. I like what they're building there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I still think they need a secondary pass rusher.
Very much so.
Sweat, but their secondary is really fun. I like what Tyreek Stevenson did last year. Jaquan Brisker is always going to be around the ball. Kyler Gordon is a fun nickel. They are building the pieces to a legitimate team.
They've hit on a lot of draft picks in the secondary too. Because you mentioned Brisker was a draft pick a couple years ago, so it was Kyler Gordon and Tyreek Stevenson. They have a really good.
You haven't made draft picks in Chicago. At least one of them had to pick.
Yeah, absolutely.
So wonder if this is the Eberflus has got to get it going.
Right. I mean, hey, have you seen how he looks physically? cut the hair, has a nice little fade. Got a
You get a
good
new
beard
quarterback in the
going.
room, and everybody, you get like a 1-year extension on your job. Everybody getting to see the new haircut.
Exactly. Yes. By the way, Matt Eberflus is living proof that a nice fade and a beard is men's makeup. That can solve all. Can fix everything.
That's a BBL.
Yeah.
That's a men's BBL. Well, evidently it's not a men's BBL because the actual BBL would be a men's BBL, but according to the results of last weekend. But.
Was that that's a reference to said beef between the two rappers?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just can't get on board with it, man. I don't really like it to begin. Like I'm not a big rap fan to begin with. So I get why people enjoy it. It's just not
calling that man BBL Drizzy is the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life.
That's fine. That's fine. Everybody seems to be enjoying it. It's just not my wave. Number 19, another guy who I have all the confidence in the world will be higher on the list this time next year. Anthony Richardson. We only saw a month of him last year, but God, it was a fun month.
Oh, the Anthony Richardson blow up is going to be crazy.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be, you could see it last year that he is still kind of figuring out the footwork of the game, but his process and the accuracy flashes he showed, man, like you can sign me up for all of that. Shane Steichen really knew how to use him well, especially in the run game. They had some real creative run looks. And now you get Jonathan Taylor fully back. You get A.D. Mitchell, Michael Pittman back around, Josh Downs in the slot. They are the sneaky, like, this team is going to make the playoffs after missing the playoffs last year team.
Right. 18. This is where I slid in Tua. I said Tua's ketchup. Like, he's fine. There's better condiments for sure. If I've got, a set of fries, I'm going to look for ranch ahead of ketchup for sure. But if I don't have anything else, you can do worse than ketchup. But at the same time, ketchup definitely has its limits of what it can go on and what it can do. And I think that the Dolphins are starting to realize they need a more creative condiment if they want to get further than the wild card round.
I think Tua is perfectly fine where he is.
Yeah.
I think this is the perfect spot for him around that 16. Like he is Kirk. I think Kirk Cousins has kind of grown in his ability to play in his play style and has earned a lot of respect to move on from like being the face of the Kirk scale.
Right.
I'd have to call it the Tua scale.
I think so too.
This might have to become like maybe your super Tua or your Tua light. But I think Tua is good enough within that offense to make things work with his timing, his anticipation, the accuracy. But when things start to fall apart, that creation aspect isn't there. And I think that's what separates Miami's offense from reaching the points where it wants to in the playoffs, because they don't have a guy who can create.
Number 17. This is a guy that I gave a lot of crap coming into last year, and he very much succeeded my expectations. So tip of the cap to him. This is where I put Baker Mayfield in Tampa Bay, number 17.
I'm going to be a hater. I think Baker Mayfield should be a little lower.
Oh, okay.
I think I would have Geno, Anthony Richardson, and Caleb Williams. I think I'd have them over Baker.
And I think that at this point next year, they all will be. It's hard making these two because, like, in my head, like, yes, like if I had the choice of Anthony Richardson or Baker, I'm taking Anthony Richardson. So it's like a combination of, okay, what did you do last year? What do I think you're going to do? Are you going to sustain what you've done? So they're a little bit difficult to make, but I won't disagree with you on that.
I think Mayfield does a lot of stuff well in a certain offense. He operates best in a McVay offense. I think they got him to throw the ball over the middle, which has surprised the hell out of me because he never did that. But like you said, I wonder how he looks post-Canales.
Yeah.
Because I still think his processing post-snap isn't that great. And he also writes a lot of checks. His body cannot cash. So, and that's the reckless aspect of Baker Mayfield's game.
Right.
You got to live with that. But I don't know if he is the guy you want to live with doing that.
Sure. Tua is like a valet driver parking Lambos. I think that's a nice little analogy. It's a good analogy.
That's a good analogy. That's like, oh my gosh. It's like when somebody who's like a huge leader of a faction in wrestling, like Oh, he's David Finley.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's a good comp.
Like he is the leader of he's a new leader of a super popular faction, and it's fine, but
Sure.
it's not the same as it used to be.
It's not AJ Styles leading the Bullet
Not
Club.
AJ Styles anymore.
Okay. Yeah, I can get behind that comp. That's good. Number 16. This is where I put Brock Purdy.
I do not envy you for.
By the way, I'm more than aware that you have declared yourself not part of any sort of Brock Purdy discourse. You're tapped out of it, so I get it.
I do not envy you. But what I will say about Brock Purdy is this. Brock Purdy showed a lot of improvement for a second-year player, and really improved. He improved a lot. I still think he is a little reckless, and sometimes that recklessness works. You know, that recklessness works in that offense. It maximizes the dynamo of stars they have, but how often can you continue to do that with his body? You know, I don't know. I don't know how physically like limited he is at this point. And that's not saying he's a bad quarterback. I just think he is physically limited, which is fine. But when it comes to other quarterbacks in the league, I'd take over him. I'll take the guys with a little higher floor and higher ceiling physically.
I very much agree. 15. I don't know what he's going to look like this year, but I'm excited to see it. Kyler Murray's at 15 for me.
I would have Kyler Murray higher. Kyler Murray higher because I think even last year, coming off the ACL injury, he looked good.
Oh yeah, I like Kyler Murray. I do.
He looked good. I think Cliff Kingsbury kind of marred what we look at Kyler Murray as, but he is a good quarterback. I think that is somebody who, in the new offense, in the offense that is under his second year, with a full offseason healthy, it's going to skyrocket, especially with Marvin Harrison Jr. Trey McBride really came on last year. He's good. Michael Wilson was a fun power slot.
Yeah.
I think the offense is going to be fun this year.
I think the over-under for the Cardinals is 6.5. You going over?
I would have to see their schedule because I love their offense, but the defense is oof.
I was going to say, they very much, got a ton of draft capital this past draft. They're clearly, building a foundation for the future. And that side of the ball is still very much in transition.
Yeah, they need an impact pass rusher.
Yes, very much so. Jalen Hurts is 14. He might need to be a little bit higher, but man, that collapse last year was eye-opening to me. JP's this is going to be the first time JP yells at me.
Jalen Hurts is difficult because he's very good at certain things. He is a +1 as a runner and is a great downfield passer.
Very, very good.
But the collapse happened because Jalen Hurts was not 100% as a runner. And that was so valuable to the Eagles offense and what they did, and to Jalen Hurts' game and what he did, because the RPOs did not work. You don't have that run pass option if he can't run. So everything just became a pass.
Mm-hmm.
And you couldn't run the ball with Jalen Hurts because his knee was all messed up. He had problems with his shoulder too. So the deep ball,
he was beat to hell.
Wayne, but he is averse to attacking the middle of the field. And I am so curious about what Kellen Moore is going to do to this offense, because I'm not a big Kellen Moore fan. I think when it came to the great breakup of Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore, I think both of them stunk.
Right.
I think Kellen Moore is a guy, if you like 6-yard hitches and dump down to the running backs, you'll like Kellen Moore. He's going to take a lot off the shoulders of Jalen Hurts in the run game, but Jalen Hurts also is not played a lot under center. And Kellen Moore does a lot under center, especially in the run game. So this evolution of Jalen's game to being more under center, operating better post-snap over the middle of the field, I think I would have him around the 10 to 14 range where you have him. I think it's the right area. But yeah, this is a big year for him and the Eagles offense.
I mean, with Kellen Moore, I mean, everybody expected like a big difference last year with the Chargers when they brought over Kellen Moore, and everybody's like, "Oh my goodness, Kellen Moore to the Chargers, what could go wrong?" And then the offense like didn't look all that different in terms of there was just a lot of short underneath stuff from Justin Herbert rather than leaning into what he does well, which is like downfield passing.
The run game good.
Run game looked good. So it's a big we'll see with Philadelphia. I'll be very curious to see how they do in the NFC East. 13, Jared Goff. I like Jared Goff.
Jared Goff is a super Kirk.
Yeah, he's very much like dark side super Kirk.
Jalen Hurts, I think, to an extent, Geno kind of operate in this super Kirk range where they have certain talents and abilities that Kirk Cousins doesn't really have, but they all kind of need that offensive, like they need their hand, they need to be guided a little bit.
Right.
Goff, obviously, we know the guy didn't say he's taking under Ben Johnson, but what people kind of underrate about Jared Goff is his arm is really strong. There's a reason he was the number 1 overall pick. He has a really strong arm. But, those 12-yard digs, he'll fire in a 12-yard dig. In the drop back, when he has to create, don't ask him to do that. Just ask make those 12-yard digs. So I could see having him lower. I could see somebody having him higher.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of the Kirk scale. He is in that range.
I think Goff, you mentioned Geno, Purdy, Tua, they all kind of fall in that scale of, need a little bit of guidance, need the right offense. Don't ask them to be too creative. I think they all kind of fall in that. And their unquestioned leader, number 12, Kirk Cousins, who you mentioned is maybe kind of graduated from that scale. I love Kirk. I feel about Kirk Cousins. That's my dude. Is on pace for a career year last year before getting injured. Now goes to Atlanta where, they had a crap draft, but credit where it's due with the offense that they currently have with Bijan, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. Now adding Kirk into that, it felt like they were a quarterback away. Bringing over Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson to be the OC. I think that they'll win the division. I think Kirk will have a nice year.
I gained so much respect for Kirk Cousins over the last 2 years, year and a half. His toughness back there, he is willing to stand in and fire those passes.
He'll take
last year, even the year where they made the playoffs, he was getting folded. I remember not last year's game, but the year before that, the Vikings played the Jets. And the Jets made Kirk Cousins' life. It was the Mike White game.
Yes, Mike White. Yep.
The Jets folded Kirk Cousins in half. I think there's a hit. I'm going to send it to you after we get off. But Quincy Williams absolutely divides Kirk Cousins on a play. It is so I cringed watching it because I'm like, damn, I know that hurt. But Kirk is he's super tough. He has grown in his aggression, throwing the ball downfield and over the middle of the field, which really coincides with that McVay offense. I think Atlanta's they're going to make the playoffs. They have to. This has to be it. This has to be the team that makes the playoffs. And I think he meshes really well with the guys they already have on offense.
I think so too. And they had the 5th best defense in the NFL last year in terms of success rate. I really like Jesse Bates at safety. I think that they'll be right now. They are on paper the best team in that division rather comfortably. So I'm excited to see what this year will bring for the Falcons, for our mutual friend Chase Thomas. I'm sure that he'll have a fun year watching football for the first time in a little bit. So good for Atlanta. Number 11, Dak Prescott.
I think Dak should be higher.
Okay. I'll listen to the argument. By the way,
it's barely because I think Dak is a top 10 quarterback. I think
I was very much debating. I think originally I had him at 10, and then I switched him for the guy who's at 10. So
I think Dak's a top 10 quarterback. He is such a good processor and so good at the efficient things. He is quarterback teach tape. He 1, 2, 3, boom, feet are in the ground. Spikes are on the ground. He is throwing it. He is ripping it. I think I want him to play a little more loose. He and Justin Herbert had the same, they don't play the same, but they have the same idea of robot quarterback. I'm going to get from 1 to 2 to 3 and get to the check down.
Yeah.
Just lighten up a little bit. Loosen up a little bit, play a little bit more free, allow yourself to create. And I really think what happened was that ankle injury kind of took away a little bit of that, what Dak was as a runner.
Yeah.
So maybe in this, what is it? It's going to be 3 years post-injury.
He got injured in 2020, I think. So it'd be year 4, wouldn't it?
4 years post-injury. I want to see him be a little more creative. That's what I think separates him from like the guys in the 3 to 6 range to me that we're going to get to are separated from, I mean, honestly, the guys from 2 to 6 are separated from the 1 and separated from the guys at 7 to 10 because they're a bit more free in their ability to create. And that kind of operates in that 7 to 10 area where like, I just want him to create a little bit more.
I'm not like a Dak hater per se. Like I like Dak, but I am in the camp of like, dude, I'm not going to take you super seriously until like you beat the allegations of being able to get, deep in the playoffs. And I think that's until proven otherwise, that's going to be the narrative around him. But regular season Dak, I'm all in. 36, he's good.
I'm a Dak respecter. I love Dak. I think he is one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL. Like I said, the playoff stuff is very weird, but I think that can also be that can be explained by the fact that they are the Dallas Cowboys.
Sure.
And nobody wants the Dallas Cowboys to win anything. I don't think anybody needs. Like the South Carolina Senate the other day said they call the Cowboys Satan's team and that they need prayers. When you look at how they play in the playoffs, yeah, they need some prayer. That's the only way I can describe what happens. But I understand the need to win in the playoff game. I also think it's just needing to play well in the playoff game. He has not played well in these playoff games. Outside of the
Tampa Bay game last year was really good.
The game was good, but that was against a Tampa Bay team that just wanted to get out of there.
Right. That was an 8-9 Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that got in because somebody from the NFC South had to.
Yeah. So I want him to play well in a playoff game.
Sure. Number 10, your boy Trevor Lawrence. Number 10.
I'm gonna sound like I really am, but I don't care. He should be higher.
And by the end of the year, he will be. I love Trevor Lawrence.
I think people do not understand the premise of a number 1 overall pick. I think they instantly think, oh, he should lead this team to the playoffs.
Thank you. Yes, very much.
That team sucks outside of Trevor Lawrence. That team is not constructed very well. And you could kind of see it bubbling over last year.
Yeah.
Because the offensive line can't block. First of all, if you cannot block, you will lose the football game. You're going to lose. You're going to lose any football games of consequence. Just ask the Bengals. The Bengals got to the biggest game of the year and couldn't block, and they are still without it, and they do not have a Super Bowl ring. Like if you can't block, you will lose games. The Jaguars couldn't block. The receivers dropped a lot of passes. It was very weird what happened with the receivers, but I think a lot of it was there's too much overlap. Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk kind of do the same stuff, but one thing that Trevor Lawrence was actually really, really good at last year was throwing the ball downfield. I think Demetrius Harvey from Jacksonville Times Union last year, Trevor Lawrence attempted the 6th most throws beyond 20 yards and had the 4th most completions and had 11 touchdowns throwing the ball beyond 20 yards.
Boy can sling it.
But there were also 4 drops downfield. That's the problem right there. Trevor wants to throw the ball downfield and be more explosive, but they didn't have anybody who would catch it down there. Right. So now you add a Brian Thomas Jr., you add Gabe Davis, and I think the plan is to be more explosive. They tried being uber efficient. They tried winning in the 6 to 10 yard ranges, and that wasn't working. So they're just gonna be like, screw it, let's throw the ball deep. And I think people do not understand that Trevor Lawrence is really, really good and has to shoulder a lot of the problems of the poor roster construction because it's like, oh, we have Trevor. Let's just throw bad stuff around him.
Right. And people also forget, I mean, Trevor Lawrence had them at 8-3 and the number 1 seed in the AFC last year. And then he got hurt. And then he got hurt and was beat to hell. And 7 of his 14 interceptions came in the final 4 games last year. So, like, he's awesome. I love Trevor Lawrence. I don't have anything else to add that you already added. I think he's great. And I want nice things to happen to him. I hope that this doesn't turn into a situation where, you know, the Jaguars just can't win because of how the roster is constructed around him. But I love Trevor Lawrence. I hope he has success in his future. And I hope that the Jaguars bounce back from, you know, the collapse at the end of last season. Number 9, I don't know, man. Didn't really know where to put him, but it would have felt weird not having him in the top 10. So I'm going based off of history and upside. Aaron Rodgers, number 9.
I'm putting him outside the top 10.
Okay.
He hasn't played. He didn't play at all last year. The last time that he did play, he didn't look that great. So I get banking on the history, and you know Aaron Rodgers is going to play well, but he is going to be, what, 40? 41?
I think so. He should be 40 this year.
Yeah, he's getting up there in age, coming off an Achilles injury.
Can I say something? I've said this about Kirk's. Not worried about the Achilles. If he was a running back, I'd be worried about the Achilles. Not too worried about it as a quarterback.
I'm worried about it when it's Aaron Rodgers who listens to dolphin mating sounds as a look for healing. Sure, man. Go ahead. You probably got rhinoceros Achilles attached to you to try and play last year. I think he is going to be good, and I fully think he should be able to move up. But for now, I'm putting him outside the top 10. There have been a lot of guys that have passed him by. So there's a lot of variables here with Aaron Rodgers. So until he actually plays, I'm going to have him outside the top 10.
I hear your argument on that. I'm excited to watch the Jets this year. You know, they got a revamped offensive line. They had Mike Williams and Garrett Wilson. The defense is going to be fantastic. If all goes well, they should be a playoff team.
Yeah, they should be. The offensive line still worries me, not because the players they added weren't good, but the players that they added aren't always healthy. Morgan Moses, Tyron Smith have all missed time. So I worry about the overall health of this team.
Fair enough. Number 8, the guy who replaced him, Jordan Love, number 8.
He's such a fun player.
He's probably my 3rd favorite player in football right now.
He's a trick shot artist, man. The ability to throw a ball at any different angle, the creation in the pocket, and the aggression throwing the ball downfield. He wants to take those shots and knows he has the arm to do it. I'm so excited to see him with another year as the unquestioned starter with Matt LaFleur and a growing receiver core. Yeah. This Packer offense could be even better than what it was in the back half of last year.
And it's cool, too, because they don't have, like, a definitive, like, superstar receiver. They've got, like, the Ninja Turtles, where it's, like, 4 dudes that can equally, to some extent, contribute, where Romeo Doubs is good, Christian Watson's good, Dontavian Wicks is good, Jaden Reed was good, the latter 2 of which were rookies last year. I think the top 6 or 7 of his receivers last year, receivers and tight ends, were either rookies or in their 2nd year, and he was still 2nd in the NFL in touchdown passes. He's awesome. Like you said, trick shot artist, I think, is a good way to describe him. He's dude perfect playing quarterback. Like, he just does some awesome things that not a lot of other quarterbacks can.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it.
All right. I'm glad that we have a mutual love for Jordan Love. All right, this is where you're going to start yelling. Number 7, Lamar Jackson.
You are the worst. You're the worst. What are you doing, man? What? No. I would genuinely like to hear your explanation.
So with Lamar, well, everybody's going to throw like the MVP thing in my face. I don't think he should have won MVP last year. Let me make that very clear. I think it's become the quarterback of the number 1 team in the NFL award. Ravens were the number 1 seed in the AFC. Lamar Jackson got the award. There were 2 or 3. I would have given it to Dak, Josh Allen, Jordan Love, and CJ Stroud before I gave it to Lamar. I think all of them were more deserving. And in terms of the Ravens last year, and we talked about, I mean, really the through line story last year is, oh my goodness, the Ravens just keep beating the hell out of good teams. Fair. They beat up Seattle pretty bad. They beat up Detroit. They beat up San Francisco. And in those games, though, there was a lot that they had in common, that the defense just beat the hell out of teams. And I think that the defense was equally as important last year than, well, maybe not equally, because obviously the quarterback's the most important position, but I think Lamar got a lot more credit that should have gone toward the defense and how he was set up in those situations in those games. But when you look at his numbers last year, they weren't gaudy. They weren't horrible by any means, but they weren't, I think it was 24 touchdowns to 7 picks. Granted, I'll throw you the bone of a lot of those touchdowns were Gus Edwards from the 1. I'll hear you on that argument for sure. And this isn't me also trying to say that Lamar stinks. I'm not one of those idiots who's going to get on Twitter and troll and be like, oh, he's a running back. I'm not dumb. But when you look at his success in playoff games as well, the biggest win of his career to this point is against a Houston Texans team that was without Tank Dell. The defense was able to just beat the hell out of them for 60 minutes. He played fine. I think that he's good, but there are 6 guys right now I would comfortably take before him.
I think Lamar Jackson is the second best quarterback in the NFL.
I think you're high.
All right, so allow me to explain. So let's take 2023. I'm going to use the same explanation for Lamar Jackson as I used for Trevor Lawrence. That Ravens offense was not as good as people thought it was outside of Lamar. They were rotating their tackles the entire season. Ronnie Stanley would come in for a drive, then Patrick McCarry would come in for a drive. Yeah, Zay Flowers is fun, but Zay Flowers is also a rookie. Rashad Bateman is a fine number 2.
Even that might be a little bit of a stretch. Rashad Bateman's always hurt.
He's fine. And again, often injured. Mark Andrews missed the last half of the year. And if you just watched how Lamar made all of those issues go away, all of them were rendered null and void because of Lamar's play. I think he took a major step in his ability as a passer. I think people are going to look at the 2019 season and be like, oh, by the numbers, that was a better season for him as a passer. No, I think this year was his best season as a passer from watching him play, the progression, just the timing that he threw the ball with, and the ability to create from within the pocket. And then you add, he is the biggest threat with the ball in his hands as a runner in the NFL.
I disagree. Continue.
Look, I get what you're going to say, and I get who you're going to say as a ball carrier, but I think it's different. I think it's a lot different because even one of the biggest qualities for Lamar is he never takes a big hit. He's never taking a big hit. Nobody can ever get a clean shot on him because he's either faster than everybody else, quicker than everybody else, or he can just duck out of bounds. It's such a underrated high quality of play for a quarterback, especially with his style, that people thought was unsustainable. But we've seen it work at this level. I think Lamar is the reason that it works at this level. And again, just the force that he plays with. He multiplied everything for this Ravens offense, who I get, again, the numbers did not look gaudy, but they beat the crap out of some good defenses.
Sure.
Of course, the Ravens defense was the best in the NFL last year. That is fair. But they picked up their lion's share of didn't they hang 40 on the Lions? They hung
they did, yeah.
The Niners never really got close to stopping them defensively.
I'm going to push back with the Niners stuff because Brock Purdy also gift-wrapped the Ravens drives in their territory quite a few times.
Even without the turnovers from Brock Purdy, I don't think they ever got close to stopping Lamar, slowing Lamar down offensively. Just the force that he plays with, the ability to constantly be in his own created state of play on the field where he's not even moving at 100%, and everybody just looks so slow around him. It's controlled. He plays with so much more control. And I think what happened in the playoffs this year was he tried to force things. He wasn't playing in control. He was out of tempo, and that's something that the Chiefs do good to a lot of players. The Chiefs get teams out of their flow, but Lamar is so good. Like I said,
I'm not arguing that he's not good. Another thing with him when it comes to the playoffs, like in his career in the playoffs, he has a playoff game against Allen. He has a playoff game against Patrick Mahomes. The Ravens have scored a combined 13 points in those two games. The Ravens are 0-4 with there goes JP. The Ravens are 0-4 in playoff games with Lamar Jackson when the opponent scores more than 13 points. So I think that Baltimore to me right now is a very, very, very good regular season team, but when they get into the playoffs, I'm not terrified by them.
So I am going to offer a different game as Lamar's best win.
Okay.
And we can debate it later, but the win over the Titans is Lamar's best playoff win in 2021, going into Tennessee and beating the Titans, who, again, like you can say, oh, it was the Titans, oh, it was Ryan Tannehill. Derrick Henry ran for like 2,000 yards that year. Like it's still a really, really good football team over there. That was one of the better defenses in the NFL that year. And, again, this was Lamar kind of coming into his own as a passer. And I'll agree the playoff games have been very weird. I think a lot has happened. I think the Chiefs kind of hit some cracks that no other team could, which is, again, the Ravens rotated their tackles all year. And it felt like nobody really noticed or cared until the end of the season, which is fair. But again, Lamar nullified so much that it made people say, oh, Lamar's only getting the win, getting the MVP because of what the defense did, or because of Todd Monken. But when you watch how he plays with the cast that he had around him, Lamar was creating everything. Lamar is that offense.
I'll agree with you on that part. Him being the second best quarterback in the league, obviously, I disagree with. I have him at number 7. We'll move on to number 6. I put Matthew Stafford at number 6. From weeks 12 to 18 last year, I think he was third in the NFL in EPA. He tore it up and made the Rams one of the better teams in the NFL. Had he not gotten hurt early on in the year, they might not have had to have played with their butts on fire to try to get a playoff spot. I love Matthew Stafford. He's still playing high-level football. And I'm excited to see what a year or two with both Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp looks like. Wonder if they're going to add somebody else in that offense. We'll see. But big Matthew Stafford guy.
I would have him lower. And the only reason I'd have him lower, and I'm not saying to drop him out of the top 10. I think he is in the 7 to 10 range.
Okay.
His body is still kind of wearing down on him.
Oh, sure.
A lot of hits. And I think the Rams have set him up really nicely to age gracefully. And the reason I say that is because if you look at their acquisitions this past offseason, they're going to run the hell out of the ball. They brought in Mike LaFleur from the Jets. They introduced a lot of duo, a lot of counter, a lot of gap scheme, and that really elevated their run game. So now you're getting to see Matthew Stafford without the burden of the entire Parthenon on him, trying to create passes at 37, 35?
Yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah. Late 30s. I want to say 36, 37 is probably correct.
I think it's 37. 36. Okay. I was close. Okay. But yeah, he's allowed to age gracefully because of what they have around him. I do think they need to add another receiver. Very quietly, Cooper Kupp was not.
Yeah. Cooper Kupp wasn't Cooper Kupp last year.
Again, It's fair because he's coming off of tearing everything in his knee, but he is aging. He is also aging gracefully into a 2 or a 3, and depending on how you look at Puka Nacua, you could say the Rams still need a 2 or the Rams still need a 1, depending on how you see Puka. But they need a guy who can create with the ball in his hands, outside of Puka Nacua. But I would have Stafford a little lower, but I loved watching him play last year.
Absolutely. They were a team that reached out to Denver about Cortland Sutton, so we'll see how those roads come to mesh with the Broncos in that whole situation. But yeah, we know that Les Snead isn't afraid to get aggressive to go get a guy that could help the offense. So we'll see. All right, top 5. Number 5. Another guy who I think could have won MVP last year had he not gotten hurt. CJ Stroud's number 5, and I think CJ Stroud 2024 MVP.
I'm not going to go that far yet. I think CJ Stroud is phenomenal. Let me just say that up front. I think CJ Stroud's phenomenal. I think his ability to, again, like I talked about with Lamar, play with force and but still play under control has been marvelous for a kid who's 21.
Yeah, he's young.
Played well beyond his years. I just would like to see him do it again. Sure. I guess that's the biggest thing. Like if he can do it again this year, I think there is still a little bit of inefficiencies to his game, just kind of ironing some things out. But he's a rookie. I would have him, Trevor, and Dak kind of in the same range of quarterbacks from not Dak. I think he and CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence are kind of in that 3 to 6 range, where if you say that guy is 3, that if you any of those guys in the 3 to 6 range, I'm fine with wherever you have them. But as long as they are the guys at those spots.
Right.
CJ Stroud has played himself into that area.
I'm a big CJ Stroud guy. I think the fact that and it's not just him, but DeMeco Ryans, Bobby Slowick, took a team that had been really bad for the past few years. His leading receiver, Nico Collins, going into this year, his previous career high in receptions was 37, which came the year before, and he had that by week 6. Doing what he did with Nico Collins, making him much better than he had ever been with Tank Dell, who was a rookie. John Mechie, these are Noah Brown. It's not as if he has a super duper star receiver that he's doing it with. Even now, Stephon Diggs, Stephon Diggs, talking about aging gracefully, is going to be more of a 2A, 2B to Tank Dell and Nico Collins. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they do this year. I'm very excited about the Texans and excited about CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do. I think the Stephon Diggs thing kind of got a little overstated a bit. I think that move is not made to say the Texans will throw the ball more. I think that move was made to say it's 3rd and 5 and we need a guy to beat man coverage, because that's where they found themselves against Baltimore. Nobody could get open. Mm-hmm. So that's what Stephon Diggs is going to do. He is going to be their 3 or whatever you want to call him. That's not number 1.
Sure. Number 4. You know how I feel about this team's offseason. I'm very skeptical. I'm very scared. But being it the first year that I haven't drank their Kool-Aid, this will probably be the year where they're good, and I'm going to regret it. But I do love their quarterback. Justin Herbert's number 4. We'll see. Got Ladd McConkey now. Got Josh Palmer. Who the hell else? That's
Ben Johnson.
Darius Davis is there too. So we'll see.
All right. So allow me to sell you a little bit on the Chargers 2024. I'm very intrigued by what they do. Like I said at the beginning of what we were talking about with who was it? We were talking about it with Russ. There are 2 ways to beat split safeties, and that is to be super duper efficient throwing the ball underneath, or beat the hell out of teams with the run game. The Chargers have tried the first option, and it wasn't successful enough, especially in a conference where you needed you needed everybody in if you want to try and make the playoffs.
Right.
And the offensive line was not that great at pass blocking outside of Rashawn Slater. Corey Linsley might be on his way to retirement. The entire right side of the offensive line is very questionable. You mitigate those questions by beating the crap out of people in the run game. And it allows Justin Herbert to not have to throw the ball as much, which takes a lot of stress off his arm. He had a lot of arm, shoulder, rib cage injuries from being hit, from being beaten to hell.
Yeah.
So now you allow him to kind of not to take a back seat in the Chargers offense, but you're not asking him to do everything. I think that's the problem with how we see top tier and elite quarterbacks. You don't have to ask them to do everything, because that's creating such a thin margin for error that it creates Dak. Dak has to do everything.
Right.
At offense. And when it doesn't work, everything collapses. Trevor Lawrence has to do everything at offense. If it collapses, everything goes to shit. This will allow Justin Herbert to have a wider margin for error. And you're able to throw the ball downfield a lot better off of play action. So we want to see Justin Herbert take more shots downfield.
Yeah.
This feels like the best. This feels like the offense or the scheme to try and do it. I understand the skepticism about Greg Roman, and I hear it, and I understand. But I think Jim Harbaugh will have a much larger say in the offense, and you can kind of throw the Lamar, Greg Roman stuff out the window. They're not gonna be running zone read with Justin Herbert. Everybody can chill out. It's worth noting that Greg Roman was also the offensive coordinator for Andrew Luck at Stanford.
He was.
That's something that I think is very crucial, very important to add. But I'm in to see what Justin Herbert looks like this year in this offense. He's such a talented passer.
So good, man.
Field, but I wonder if the reluctance to throw the ball downfield was more on the offense or more on him. I asked this question last year. Is he much more willing to be robot quarterback and play? Is he much more willing to play a little freer this year and create a little bit? Or is he still going to be robot quarterback? You can still win that way, but I think we have to temper our expectations a little bit if he plays that way again, because it might just be the guy who he is. He has the ability to do it, but he might rather get from 1 to 2 to 3, which is perfectly fine.
All right, moving on to the top 3. Number 3, Joe Burrow, coming off the wrist. We're gonna, when healthy, he's a beast. The list of accomplishments don't need listed. Got to the Super Bowl, almost won consecutive AFC Championship games, if not for a few skew plays out of his own control. He's incredible. And I think the Bengals are really going similar to San Francisco, kind of just going balls to the wall this year because T. Higgins isn't going to be there after this season. And with this group that they have, where it's Chase, it's Higgins, they added Jermaine Burton, bringing in Zach Moss to complement Chase Brown in the backfield. They are still trying to figure out, can they finally find the guy to keep Burrow upright? But in terms of quarterback talent, man, he's got to be top 3 in my mind. And right now, the Bengals are my, May 8th pick to get to the Super Bowl out of the AFC.
All right. So my question with Joe Burrow, and this is not to say that he is a bad quarterback. I think he is among those guys in the 3 to 6 range. I think he might be closer to 6 than he is to 3. But the question I have is, how much of their reluctance to play under center in play action game is on Zach Taylor, and how much of it is on Joe Burrow? Because Joe Burrow is a shotgun quarterback. Joe Burrow won the Heisman at LSU exclusively in shotgun. He is someone who does not want to do that. And again, they're creating so much of a thin margin for error that, of course, gets cracked open a little bit because you had Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. But the reasons that they have lost in the playoffs is because they don't have that easy offense ability. And it creates such a tight margin for error for Joe Burrow to have to be perfect on every play. And Joe can stand to be a little more under center. He can do that. I think some of the lower body injury was what was it, a heel or
Yeah,
ankle
like
season?
the heel came in like a non-contact thing. I think he was just like walking on the field, and it just
Yeah, like that affected what they wanted to do last year, but I want to see them be more under center and use a bit more play action. Like get a little down and dirty. And I think that's what they're going to do with adding Trent Brown. They want to get more down and dirty in the run game. Get more under center. That you can do so much more with your offense under center and using play action if you have those things working. So I want to see the Bengals not silo themselves off. And I think part of that falls on Joe Burrow, which is why I think he's closer to 6 than he is to 3.
okay. I hear you. All right, the top two. At this point, everybody knows who the top two are going to be. Number 2 is my Lord and Savior and future husband, Joshua Patrick Allen.
I love Josh Allen.
I
love Josh Allen. He is such a force of nature.
Yeah.
On the field, where his recklessness, you kind of have to live with it because that's how he lives in chaos.
Yeah.
He lives in that ability to play that style of ball. But you have to wonder a tiny bit how sustainable it is. And the reason I wonder this about Josh Allen and not for Lamar, and we were talking about this when I said Lamar is the best ball carrier with the ball in his hands in the NFL. The reason he is different from Josh Allen is because Josh Allen initiates contact.
Josh Allen wants contact.
He wants to do that. Cam Newton wanted to do that too, and it broke his body. We have seen Josh Allen kind of wear down towards the end of the season with injuries, with just little body blows. And I just wonder how a little bit. I only wonder a little bit how sustainable it is. It's not a major thing, but when he's on the field, he is such a force of nature. I think this offense for the Bills in 2024 is going to lean more on Josh's ability to run the ball and the run game. Yeah. They are undergoing the chiefism of their offense, where they're going from the balls to the wall, downfield passing, chuck it every single play, to we're gonna beat the hell out of teams in the run game.
Yeah, gonna see a lot more 12 personnel, gonna see more of a dose of James Cook, which, once Joe Brady once he took over as the play caller, the offense became more balanced, became more efficient because of it. And I think a lot of that was because he was like, look, I got Josh Allen. He's a bulldozer at quarterback. I'm going to let him be a bulldozer at times. I'm not going to try to make him not be that. And I think that when it comes to the offense, they're not going to not chuck it, but they're going to be more, like you said, it's not going to be every play where it's, all right, we're going all or nothing Hail Mary on first down. I think it's going to be a more sustainable type of offense.
And I think to an extent, Ken Dorsey tried to do that. He tried to get them to be more efficient, but he tried to do it with the quick game and passing game. And that's not something Josh Allen wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Joe Brady leaned more into, we have a tank operating at quarterback. We're going to use him in the run game, and then we'll be able to throw the ball. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to see them kind of blend the run and the pass a little better. But he is 3. He is number 3 for me.
He's my number 2, of course, and then number 1, we know who it is. Mahomes is, the comp that I made is that he's taxes. Nobody likes him except one group of people, the government, or in this case, the Kansas City Chiefs. You can't escape him. It's going to happen. And if you want to win in today's NFL, you're going to have to go through him one way or the other, so it seems. Unless you're lucky enough where he doesn't make it to the Super Bowl, but then you're going to be dealing with, a Joe Burrow or a Josh Allen or somebody else who's also really, really good. So he's terrific. There's nothing else that we can say that hasn't been said. I think the thing that comes back to you and I most is the adaptability, where they changed identities in one off season, and it was somewhat effortless, and it looked really good when they did it. And they've won consecutive Super Bowls after changing identities that quick. So the physical talent was always there of him being able to just chuck it downfield, but making that transition after the trade of Tyreek Hill and looking how they still do and winning consecutive Super Bowls after doing it. I mean, that's the most impressive thing to me.
He's inevitable.
Yeah.
He is. He is an inevitability. You said taxes. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. He's Jordan. We are seeing the early career Jordan. Like, there is a gap between number 1 and number 2 in the NFL. It is Patrick Mahomes, then everybody else. He retains such a brutally efficient style of play while also being able to hit you with the haymaker and also able to run when he has to and kill you when you try to play man, and he can run for 15 yards on 3rd and 12.
Yeah.
That is something he is so good at. He is so good at the back-breaking scramble to get the first down that just like deflates you. Like, you know the moment in the game where it's like,
I know it too well.
Close game, 4th quarter, you finally got him behind the sticks, and he takes off for a first down. And you're like, damn, like that was it. And then they go and score, and you lose to the Chiefs again. Like, he is an inevitability. And it's that style of play, his processing and his ability, like I said, to be so brutally efficient underneath is remarkable considering where he was when he first won MVP in 2019.
Yeah, or it was just bombs away. We got Tyreek Hill. He's going to outrun everybody, and Patrick's going to lob it 60 yards, and it's just going to be a free-for-all. Like, their red zone that
year. He hasn't lost the ability to do that.
No, yeah, he still has that. Like that season in 2018? 2018 would have been his, that season, their red zone was the 40. Like, once they got past midfield, you're like, oh, they could score whenever now. Like, it feels like at any second they could just punch it in.
It's so remarkable. Like you said, that offensive shift, like it's insane how they were able to flip that offense into being one of the most brutally efficient units ever,
Yeah. And they did it in a way that was, again, pretty unexpected. Like, if you look at early down personnel last year, who led the NFL in 13, wasn't the Falcons, it wasn't Cleveland, it was the Chiefs. Just going out there with 3 tight ends on the field and like, all right, we're going to ram it down your throat. And then when we need to, we can still, do the over-the-top stuff. But for now, we'll be underneath, hand it to Pacheco, let him run through you. And then, we're just going to down by down.
I think the biggest statement about Patrick Mahomes and his play is, even when the 49ers went up in the 4th quarter, nobody thought they were going to win that game.
Yeah.
Nobody thought they were going to win the game because you had Patrick Mahomes on the other side of the field. It's like Brady. That's essentially what we're getting to right now. Brady retired, and then Brady Part 2 showed up in the AFC again.
Yeah.
I have never seen a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody really ever has. And I mean, in terms of like pure talent, he's the most talented dude that I've ever seen. So it's enjoy the next 10 years. Enjoy the next 10, 15 years. I mean, that's what you're going to have to deal with with Mahomes, with Kansas City. Andy Reid just signed a contract extension to get him to 2029. So you got at least 5 more years of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. Enjoy.
Yeah, like, good luck.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. Just off your dome, what are your top 5, top 7? Since I guess I left your number 2 at 7.
Okay, so number 1 is Patrick Mahomes.
Sure.
2 is Lamar. 3 is Josh Allen. 4 is Justin Herbert. 5 is Joe Burrow. 6 is Trevor. 7 is CJ Stroud. 8 is Jordan Love. 9 is Dak. 10 is Matthew Stafford.
Okay. So I think it's the same dudes in the top 10.
Same dudes in the top 10, but I think the order changes.
Yeah. Well, I think I had Rodgers in the 10, and you put Dak. I had Dak right outside. So
that's Dak outside. I had Dak in the top 10,
and that's fine. Like if you wanted to flip Rodgers to 11 and Dak to 9, I wouldn't argue.
Yeah, I mean it's also kind of factoring in age.
Sure.
I have Stafford and Dak a little lower because, like I said, Stafford's 36. Dak is going to be what? Oh my God, Dak is. It feels like Dak has been in the league for a long time. He's 30.
He's going to be. He'll be 30. He was a rookie.
It feels like he should be older than that. Like I don't. It feels like
2016 feels longer ago. Now that I think about it, that was I agree.
Yeah, but factoring in age as well, like I would have Dak closer to the 10, but that would be my top 10. All
right, we got people leaving some comments. Don't worry, I see all your comments. It's just this is more of a us talking type of thing. Where did I put Russ? Was it 23? I put Russ, and then Justin Fields was 22.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Russ and Justin Fields back to back, 23 and 22. Got a lot of Steelers fans in this chat. Usually, this is when I do the Steelers show. I did it earlier today because I didn't want to go back to back. So if you're watching this expecting to see the Steelers show, it's on the channel. You can go rewatch it. It'll be at 7:30 tomorrow. Don't worry. JP, this is always fun talking to you. What have you got coming on SB Nation content wise?
Got a lot of stuff coming down the pipe. 2025 draft. Starting my early evaluation cycle. Going to be talking a bit about quarterbacks. Might be writing a little bit about Dak Prescott as we enter what might be his final year in Dallas. So I'm gonna be doing a lot of that. Just follow me, see what I'm doing, see where I'm going.
Good stuff. If you're looking for more Steelers content, go to behindthesteelcurtain.com for SB Nation. And then more stuff from me for USA Today and Touchdown Wire as well. JP, always love talking to you, buddy. Looking forward to seeing all the content you put out. We'll do this again, I'm sure, very soon. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. If you're listening to this as a podcast, leave a review, do all that fun podcast and YouTube stuff. We'll see you soon.